Hi friends, welcome to Web Technology. In this video, we'll be discussing about AngularJS framework. So here I'm going to demonstrate how to design a web application using AngularJS framework. So let's start with the introduction about AngularJS. So here AngularJS is basically a JavaScript with the MVC pattern architecture. So what does MVC means? Model View Controller. Basically, it is used for developing web applications. And when you talk about AngularJS, the JS stands for JavaScript. So it is a JavaScript. You have to integrate with HTML based website applications. And here, what is model view controller? So that is a specialty of AngularJS. So here we have three components. One is model. So next one is view. Next one is controller component. So first we'll talk about model. So model is a data behind the application. Whatever data we are utilizing in the application is called as model. So it can be simple data, or it can be array data, or it can be a database data. So we can store data in different places, and we can utilize in the web application. And here we are going to use a controller. So controller acting like a business logic, which will utilize the data and it will coordinate the view presentation layer. So another component called view, where we'll be using HTML and CSS for displaying the data to the user. So here these are the three components. We have a model, controller, and HTML. In view, we will be using HTML and CSS. In model, we can use database or array variable name or normal variable name we can use for storing the data. And controller is basically a functions, JavaScript functions used to represent some business logic to store the data, to retrieve the data, and to bind the data in the view. So here the controller is a mediator between view and model, which will coordinate the activities of the particular application. So what is the benefit of using AngularJS? So basically AngularJS is used for creating a single page application, single page web application. In one page we can do all the functionalities in one web. For example, if you take any website, some web application, most of the functionality will be done in the same page itself. So that kind of sites we can generate by using AngularJS. So comparatively, few lines of code only we have to write when you compare with the traditional web application technique. So here in AngularJS, we'll be using a declarative nature, and which makes it easier to write the AngularJS code. We can easily embed the AngularJS code in HTML so that we can complete the project or application in a faster, rapid manner. So here we can use CSS for styling, and here we can use HTML for view presentation, and we can use all web technologies along with this AngularJS. So let's talk about how to integrate this AngularJS framework in our HTML program. So here the AngularJS framework can be integrated inside a HTML program by using a script tag. So using script tag, we can integrate AngularJS code. So AngularJS extends HTML attributes. How we can integrate? So there are a few concepts in AngularJS called expressions and directives. Okay. So using this directives and expressions, we'll be integrating AngularJS framework components in our HTML document. So how we can start with the AngularJS? First, we need to study some of the directives to be used inside HTML, not to use the AngularJS. The first important directive called ng-app we have to use. So this ng-app will start the AngularJS in our HTML program, and ng model represent data. We can able to represent any data by using ng model. For example, if you want to read the data from a text box, we can use ng model. And ng bind is used to bind the data in the view presentation component. Now let us understand how we can integrate AngularJS in HTML program. So AngularJS is a third-party library file provided by Google API services. So we can integrate AngularJS framework just by using one link from Google website, which is provided from the URL called ajaxgoogleapis.com. So from this server, we can able to utilize that AngularJS framework. So this URL you can find if you go to Google and you can search AngularJS. So when you search AngularJS, you will be getting AngularJS tutorial. from W3 School website. So here we have just if you scroll down, the first page itself will be getting the link. The script tag src equal to the URL ajax google apis.com, and you will be getting angular.min.js. Okay, so this URL we have to include in our HTML program. So for example, I will show you one demonstration. So here in VS Code I'm going to create a HTML program, and then I'm going to demonstrate how to include AngularJS framework in our HTML program. So for example, I'm creating a sample.html program. So inside this HTML program, let's add some basic HTML coding. So now go to the head section. So here we can include the AngularJS framework. So how to include? We have to take the script tag, copy this particular entire thing, and you can include inside the head section. Just you have to paste it. Okay. Now after pasting, you can notice that there is a file URL to angular.min.js file will be included. Okay, so this is just only one file is needed for utilizing this MVC design framework. So now let us understand how we can utilize the different functionalities of this AngularJS framework. And another way is we can also download this JavaScript file. You can download this file angular.min.js file, and we can include directly by you can keep the file inside your project directory, and you can able to link inside the HTML program using script src angular.min. You can just directly have to give only the angular.min.js file name you have to give. Okay, so you can keep the file locally in your system, and you can link the file. So this is another way of um, including AngularJS file. So now let us understand how to start working on AngularJS program. So let us how to bootstrap AngularJS in our HTML program. So this bootstrap is done by using, there is a one very important directive called ng-app directive. So using this ng-app directive, it defines the AngularJS application and to be used inside the HTML program. Okay, so using this ng app directory, it will tell the browser to integrate AngularJS framework inside the HTML document. Okay, this particular ng app first we need to include, and this you can include in HTML code, HTML tag you can include, or you can include in body tag, or you can include in anywhere you can include. So now let us understand how to include that. So it can be included in HTML tag. So how to include? These directives can be included as an attribute of HTML tag. For example, HTML, we have HTML ng-app. So like this we can include. Initially we can keep it empty. So later I'll tell you what value we are supposed to pass here. Now it will tell the AngularJS to control the entire HTML application. Okay, so it will control the entire HTML application. Also we can keep this ng app inside a body tag. So this will tell the AngularJS to control only the body section of a HTML document. Out of body section, it is not the control. There is no you cannot use any AngularJS functionality. So now let us understand how to include in our program. So here I have a HTML program. So here we can include in HTML tag, or you can put in the body tag. So how to use? We have just use ng app equal to initially we'll try with double quotes. This double quotes later we have to fill with the AngularJS module. There is another concept is called AngularJS module. So we have to create an AngularJS module with the functionalities. So that module we can include inside this particular double quotes. Okay, so now when you apply ng-app inside this body tag, now the entire body tag is under control of the AngularJS framework. So anywhere inside body tag we can utilize the AngularJS framework concepts. Okay, right? So then next is we have another directory called ng model. So basically ng model is used to represent data from the view component. For example, we can use text box, and we want to access the data from the text box. So we can apply ng model to access the data from the text box. So let us understand in this program, if I want to access some data, so we can use enter the data. So we can create a input type is equal to text. So in this text box, we can use ng model for representing the data variable. For example, ng model is equal to we can create one variable called data. So this data variable hold the data. So whatever user type in the text box will be stored in this ng model data. So model in MVC framework we have model view controller, right? So model is to represent the data. Data can be from, it can be from the user interface also, from text box also. So next, the final one is we can bind the data model to a HTML view. Okay, so we have discussed about how to use ng model, right? So using ng model we can create data, and that data you can bind into any view component by using a binding concept. There are two ways you can bind. One is double braces. You can use double braces, you can apply inside, you can apply model name. Otherwise we can use another directory called ng-bind. Okay, so like this paragraph ng-bind model name. Okay, now let us understand how to do that. So for example, here I am typing some data in the text box. Here I want to display the data in this paragraph. Whatever I type in the text box, I want to display inside this paragraph. So we can, one way of binding is like this. We can use the model name. So whatever model I have created here. Here I have created the model name is data. So that model we can write using double bracket. Inside we can use the model name. Okay. So this is one way of representing data. Another way of binding data is we can also use like this p tag, and we can use ng bind equal to and the model data. So the name of the model data is data, right? So we have to use data. So the value of this model will be binded in this particular paragraph. Okay, so now let us understand this by executing this program. So I'll execute this program. So now we got the output like this. So when we type some data, for example, I'm going to type test data, right? So when I type some data in the text box, since the model is binded in this paragraph, so whenever we type, for example, whenever you type, the model is changing, right? The model data is changing. So whenever we update the model, so the view is also getting updated. Okay, since it is actually directly binded. Okay, it's directly binded. So whatever you changes you are making in this text box will be updated in the paragraph given by this double curly bracket, or it is given by the ng bind. Okay, so you can there are two ways you can do that. One is using double curly bracket, or you can apply ng bind directly. Okay, so now whatever, for example, welcome to Angular JS. Okay, so now the moment when I am typing itself, the model is getting updated. The model, through the model, the view is also getting updated. So that's a fancy about Angular JS framework. Okay, it's directly binded. Okay, so the model and view component is directly binded. So when you make changes in the model, it will automatically update the view component. Okay, so next very important concept we are going to discuss about is Angular JS modules. Okay, so this is actually a basic thing about how to write, how to bootstrap Angular JS using ng app, and how to create a model and how to bind data. Suppose if you want to write some controller functional, some functionalities. Suppose if you want to write a business logic, some logic you want to write, you need a concept called, you need a technology called modules, AngularJS modules. Okay, so here AngularJS modules are actually, it's a package. Inside we can create multiple controllers, and every controller we can have data and functionalities. Okay, we can create multiple controller for a particular AngularJS application. So AngularJS module can be created by using an Angular command dot module function. Okay, so we can create Angular dot module. So this is a way we can create. You can use Angular dot module within bracket. We have to give the module name, and comma we have to specify the square bracket. Okay, so square bracket is actually the external libraries. If you want to include along with the AngularJS, we can provide those module names. Okay, now let us understand how to create a module. So to create a module, in the head section, create one more script tag. So we have to create one more script tag. So inside the script tag, so we have to create one variable called app variable. So in this app variable, we can create a module. So Angular dot module. So for every module, we have to give a name for the module. For example, so my application, okay. So we'll give as a my app, we can give, and comma, we have to give a square bracket for third party libraries to be included, okay. Once we create this AngularJS module, now this module we can integrate in HTML program by using ng app directive. So in ng app directive we have a empty double quotes, right? So this is a place we have to give the name of the module. So name of the module we have to give here, so that this module is now it is added in HTML program. So the AngularJS takes the control through this module. The AngularJS takes the control of that particular entire HTML document, okay. So this is about how to create a module. So once we create the module, now it's a time to create controllers, okay. So next topic is you have to understand how to create controllers. So what is controller? So controller is basically is a functionality, functions and data, right? So controller is similar to a class which contains data and functionality, right? So in controller basically two things we have to include. One is data we can include. Another one is we can put some functionalities, okay. For example, here I want to create a controller, so we can use app dot. We can use controller. Inside we can provide a name for the controller. So for example, my controller is a name, and comma, we have to create one function. So function in JavaScript we can create using function keyword bracket, then open bracket, close bracket, then semicolon, okay. Now go inside the curly braces, press enter, so it will come like this. So this is a controller logic. So here we have to write all controller logic goes here, okay. So this is the structure how to write a controller. So once we do the controller part, we can create data and we can create functionalities, okay. So first we will let us understand how to create data. So for that, if you want to create a data, you have to use there is a parameter called scope parameter. So scope object can be used to create data inside the controller. Also this scope object is used to bind the data from HTML view components also, okay. So now let us see how to utilize this scope parameter. So there is a function we have created in controller, right? So inside this function we have to create scope object. The scope object we have to create inside the function as a variable, so that the scope parameter will be utilized in our functionalities inside this controller, okay. So let us understand how to create data. So scope, if you want to create a data, you have to use scope dot. For example, I want to create data called name to store a name of a person called John, okay. So now this name I have stored, okay, here. So now this data we can access in throughout entire HTML program we can able to access. So how to access it? How the HTML program understand this data? Okay. So here how we can make this data accessible inside HTML program. Okay. So in order to do that, so there is one more directive we have to study called, we have to understand called ng-controller. So we have to use ng-controller, and we have to give the name of the controller we have to set inside the body tag, so that inside body tag we can able to access all scope parameters, whatever scope parameter we have created here. So all scope parameter we can able to access. So here, so the ng controller is used for identifying the controller logic for this particular HTML code, for this particular entire HTML body document, which controller to be used, so that when this particular scope parameter can be accessible to anywhere in the HTML program. Now let us see how to access this data. To access the data, we have to use a paragraph tag or any tag we can use. In h1 tag we can use, we have to use a directory called ng-bind. So we have to use ng-bind equal to, we have to give the name of the data, so name of the model. So here the name of the model is name, so we have to use name. So now inside this paragraph tag, the data John will be displayed, okay. So now let's save the program. And so now when we look at the output, you can see here when I reload, here you can see the John data is displayed, By default automatically it is displayed since it is binded. The data model is already here, it is binded, right? So when you run the program itself, when I reload the page itself, you can see the data John is displayed inside the paragraph tag. So the same way we can also create array variable also. If you want to create array variable, if for example I want to store some fruit names, we can use like this. Fruit names I want to store: apple, mango, orange, pineapple. So these are the fruit names am storing in this array. So here this is another data model we have created, right? So we can also create a array data model. So this array, if you want to bind here, we can use another tag. For example, I will use div tag. Inside div tag, we can use the bind name is equal to, we can apply fruits. Okay, now let us see what is the output page. Now when you reload, you can see the entire array we can able to see as output, right? Where it is coming, the output is coming inside the div element. Inside the div element, the complete data will be binded. Okay, so basically the scope object is actually used for creating data, and as well as we can also create method. We can also create method inside the controller using scope parameter. Okay, now let us understand how to create a method. So using scope parameter, we can create, for example, we can create a function. For example, some function we can create. Let us understand my function. I'll write my function is equal to, how to write a function. Okay. So we have to use a function keyword, bracket, open bracket, close bracket. So this is how we have to write the function. Inside function, we can do some logic. For example, I'll alert one message. Welcome. Okay, now this function, how we are writing, using the scope parameter, scope object dot, we have to introduce one variable called my function is equal to function logic we have to write in JavaScript. Okay, so inside, for testing purpose, I am writing alert function. Just we'll test by using, there is a one more directive called ng click. So ng click is basically used with the button tag. So in button tag, when we click the button, I want to call one function. Okay. So let us understand how to do that. So we'll create one button here. We'll create a button. So now inside this button, for example, this button is for like for example click button. Inside the button, we can use a, there is a one directive called ng-click we can use. So ng-click is used for calling the function, triggering the function. So in AngularJS also there are some certain event handling mechanism. So ng-click is one of the event which will be triggered when we click the button. Okay. So here ng-click equal to, we have to give the name of the function. Here the name of the function is my function. Okay. So we have to use my function and we have to call the function. Okay. So ng-click equal to my function within bracket. Just you have to call the function. Okay. So now let us save the program and execute the application. Okay. So when we reload the page, you'll be getting a button. If I click the button, now look at this, an alert message is coming. So we can ensure that the function is called successfully. The function is triggered, right? The function is called. Okay. So here we have created a function, my function equal to function bracket this functionality, right? This functionality will be called when we click the button. So using ng-click. So here we have to understand ng-click is a directive, AngularJS directive used for triggering a function when we click the button. Okay. Suppose for example, if you want to create a simple interest calculator using AngularJS. Okay. For example, you want to provide a text box. You want to provide a text box for principal amount. We need to collect principal amount. We need to collect interest rate. We need to collect number of years. Okay. I want to calculate the simple interest final amount by applying simple interest calculation. Okay. So here we are going to practice how to do this program. So first thing is we have to design this interface. So first we need to create, so I'll close this, I'll create one more HTML program, example.html. So we'll add one HTML basic coding. Then the previous program will copy this entire script content and we can modify it, right? So basically you need this AngularJS URL you need. Basic thing is the AngularJS URL you have to include, and you need to create a module, you need to create a controller. Then you have to integrate this module and the controller in HTML body document ng app. You have to use equal to my app. Then using ng controller we can link the controller here. Okay, so now we have a ng app is integrated, ng controller is integrated. Now we can design the interface. So first we need to get the principal amount. So we can create a simple interface for collecting principal amount. Principal amount, we need a text box, and for this text box we have to bind the data by using a ng model. So ng model directive is used for storing the data, like, so we can, this is a principal amount, right? So we'll put as PA for principal amount. The same way we can create next text box for getting the another input called interest rate. I want to get the interest rate. So interest rate in percentage, we can take the data, input type is equal to text box, and this interest rate text box also we have to bind the data using ng model. So you have to use ng model is equal to some name we can give. For example, interest rate I'll put as a R as a interest rate. Next, the same way we can design the next one, years. So years, here years we need another text box, input type is equal to text, and here also we need a ng model to link the data, right? Whatever we type in the text box, we want the data, right? So one more thing is this ng model data we can access inside the controller by default, by automatically we can access by using this scope parameter. By using scope parameter we can able to access this ng model from the view component, right? So that's why we are using ng model. And here number of year is actually t, let it be t. So for example, here when we click the button, I want to generate this final amount equal to some amount. Okay, so I want to create a button or apply simple interest. So here when I click the button, I want to find the simple interest, right? So we have to use ng click. We have to call one function, let it be find si function. So this find si function we have to write inside the controller logic. So that is one thing we need to do. Another one more thing is to display the data. To display this particular data, I have to create one div element, and I have to bind with one variable. So we can create a variable called output. Okay, so we can create a variable called output. So this output variable will be created by using, later we can create inside scope parameter, right? So after finding the simple interest, the output data whatever you want to display, you have to store in this variables, output variable. Okay, now let us see how to do this. When I click this particular button, when I click the button, I want to call this function find si. So we have to create a function called scope dot find si is equal to function bracket open bracket close bracket. Okay, so inside this si function we can calculate the final amount. So final amount we can calculate like this, amount equal to we want to access the principal amount, right? So first we need to access scope dot pa, that is a principal amount, into within bracket 1 plus the rate of interest. Rate of interest is second model is r, right? So how we are accessing principal amount, scope dot pa, right? So the same way you have to access this interest rate ng model r, we have to access. So we have to access like this way, and the rate of interest is in terms of percentage we are collecting. So take the percentage, convert as a, you have to convert scope dot r divided by 100. Okay, so this is how you have to apply 1 plus rate of interest into, you have to multiply with the number of years. So number of year we are collecting using a model called t. So t is actually the number of years, right? So we have to, how will you access this t? This every model you have to collect using scope parameter. Okay, so you have to use scope dot t. So now the final amount is ready. This final amount we have to display. Okay, so here the final amount, right? How you want to display? We can display like this using output. Here we have a output variable. I'm creating an output variable here. we can write the final amount is equal to plus operator, we can use concatenate, and this value scope dot amount. Okay, we can display. Suppose if you want to display the interest also, finally how much interest, if you want to display, you can create another div element where we can show the interest, total interest, right? So using this variable we can get the total interest. So create this variable total interest is equal to, so we can use scope dot final amount minus scope dot principal amount. Now save the program, let us see the output, run the application. So amount I'll give 10,000, 10 percentage, 5 years. Now look at this, the final amount is displayed as 15,000. Okay, and 5,000 is a interest, right? 5,000 is interest. Then next we are displaying. Okay, so if you want to display with some message, you can write like this, final interest, like this. You have to put, customize the output. Okay, so now save it again and reload, and here if I give 10,000, now 10 percentage, 5 years, when you click you will be getting final amount equal to 15,000, final interest equal to you will be getting 5,000. Okay, so this is how we have to apply AngularJS controller logic for doing any given problem. For example, this example shows how to calculate a simple interest calculation using AngularJS model view controller design pattern. Okay, so next we move on to the next one more topic called arrays, working with arrays. Okay, so in the previous example we have discussed about how to create arrays. So here you can see how to create array. Now we are going to see how to fetch the array items and how to display the array items. Okay, how to store the array dynamically and how to display the array items. Okay, and to display, if you want to display array values, there is a one special directive in AngularJS called ng repeat. So we can use ng repeat. Using ng repeat we can show, we can iterate the arrays, we can iterate the array items, and we can display in a view component. Okay, now let us see one example how to do that. We'll create one more example program, example2.html program. So here also we need the script tag. So we need a HTML code, basic HTML code we can automatically generate. Select this, and we need this this AngularJS code we need, and this controller logic we have to create, right? So inside controller logic we can remove everything. Okay, now it is a fresh controller logic. Now inside this body tag we can copy this as usual, a ng app, ng controller we need, we can copy paste. Okay, so now let us see how to display data from array collection. Okay, so in the previous example we discussed one array called, we have created one array called fruits. This array will take, so this array I am taking. So here we have a fruit array, apple, mango, orange, pineapple. Now I want to display this array items one by one. Okay, so I want to display inside a list format. So it's very simple. You can use a list, OL list, and inside you can generate a list item by using ng repeat. You just say ng repeat equal to create one variable. For example, one temporary variable in, then the name of the array variable fruits. So temp is nothing but a variable which will store every item from this collection during the iteration. So ng repeat iteration. Okay, so now I want to display. So to display we can use ng hyphen bind. This is one way of doing it. Like this we can display ng hyphen bind, or inside we can use double bracket also we can use. Okay, now let us see like this. Here we can put one title also. I want to show list of fruits. So now I'll close this, I'll run this program. So here you can see the list of fruits is displayed. 1 is apple, 2 is mango, 3 is orange, and 4 is pineapple. Okay, right? So like this we can able to display it. Okay, so this is a ordered list format. Another way is we can remove this ng bind and we can use double curly bracket, and you can use temp. So temp is a variable from this ng repeat, right? So how it is working, just like a for loop. Okay, it will repeat, iterate as many times from the array variable. So I'll save it and reload again, so the same thing is coming. Okay, so the same way we can also create an array with objects also. We can also create array with object. For example, associative array elements. For example, we can create scope dot employees. Inside we can create name colon John, employee colon 8, some employee ID, salary. Okay, so we can store multiple employee details. We can store. Okay, so how to iterate this? How to iterate this? If you want to iterate, here we have the output is displayed for. So in this case, the output is displayed the table format. So how to do that? ng-repeat emp in employees. We can repeat the table data. Sorry, we can bind the data in the td tag. We can use emb.name, emb.id. Okay, so this way also we can do that by using a collection of uh, employee details. For example, if you want to display multiple data, you can do it in this way. Okay, and one more way is the same program. This here I have mentioned apple, mango, orange, everything in a ordered list, right? So the same thing we can display in a table format also. So if you want to display in table format, you have to use table tag. Border you can apply, border is equal to 1. Cell spacing you can apply. So just customization or css you can apply. And you can also use width. You can increase to at least 70 percentage of the screen or 50 percentage. And we can align the table in the center. Okay, so now we can create a first row. The first row we can display table header. For example, serial number. I want to display serial number and the name of the fruit. Okay, so I want display the fruit name, right? So now here we have created the first row. So after creating the first row with the serial number and fruit name, we want to generate the values, right? So we can create a second row. Second row we have to apply ng repeat is equal to we have to use one temporary variable item in the fruits array. And here we can use a track by index variable also. Index, track by index. So track by index is a recommended way to access the index. Since I want to show serial number of every item, serial number I want to generate. Okay, so we can use td. Inside first td we can generate, we can display serial number by adding index plus 1. Okay, so that in array collection by default index is 0. So whenever index comes we are adding 1. So it will be the index will, the serial number starts from 1 2 3 4. Okay, so like that it will start. So now the index will be displayed. Next we want to display the next data. So next data is actually this one, item. Okay, we have to display the item, that is a fruit name we have to display. So now we can save the program and we can execute this output. So now look at this, the table contains serial number 1 2 3 and apple, mango, orange, pineapple is actually iterated and it is displayed in the second column, right? In each row it is generated by using ng repeat. Okay, so this is an example how to use ng repeat. So next we are going to see how to add dynamically, how to add items inside the inside this particular array. Okay, so let us understand how to add items inside the array. The same program will modify this. Okay, so here I have a table which will display the fruit item. Okay, which will display the fruit item. Now instead of this OL tag, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create one text box where we can add items. Okay, so enter fruit name. So we can take some data is equal to type is equal to text and ng model equal to fruit name. Okay, fruit name is the model name, right? So now I'm going to create a button. So when I click the button, I want to add fruit. Okay, I want to add the fruit in the array collection. So we can use ng hyphen click equal to ng hyphen click equal to, we have to create a function. Okay, so we have to create a function. here we have to create one function called add item. Okay, so that function I'm going to call. So this add item function we can create inside the controller by using scope dot add item is equal to function you can create. So here we have a add item function. Okay, so when I click this add button, I want to add the item. Okay, you got it. So this item will add the item in this fruits array. Okay, so initially we can keep it empty, we can keep the array items empty initially. So this is an empty array model. Okay, so now I want to add items. Which item I want to add? When I click the add button, the data we can access by using ng models. This ng model is used for accessing the data. So we can call scope dot fruits dot push function we can use. There is a function called push. Inside push function we can use scope dot fruit name. Okay, so we have to use fruit name inside push function. Okay, so this is how we can dynamically add items to this array. So when you add items, it will be automatically displayed in the table because we have already binded the data inside the table. Okay, so now let us see the output. Save, reload the page. Now look at this. Here we have an interface like this. I'm going to add first on apple. I'll add apples. Now it is added, apple is added. Mango, I'm going to add mango. Now I'm going to click add. So now it is added in the array as well as it is displayed in the table because since we have already binded using ng repeat, we have already binded the values of fruits array. So whenever this array is getting updated with the new data, this view also getting updated. So view will be updated. So that's a benefit of AngularJS framework. So next I'm going to add another item, pineapple. Okay, so when I click add button, it's added. Okay, similarly we can do delete operation. So we can create one more column here and we can put delete operation. So for example, we can create one more column, th delete. Okay, so we can create a delete button here. So we can create a delete button inside this td. We can create a delete button. So when I click this delete button, it should delete that particular data. Okay, so for example, remove. So when I click this button ng click, it should remove the item. Okay, so ng click is equal to remove. You have to create one function, remove item. Which item you want to remove? We have to pass the item id, the index you have to pass. Using index we can understand which item to be removed. Okay, so remove item, we have to pass the index. So when I click the remove button, what will happen? This function will be called. So this function we have to write here. How to write? Scope dot remove item is equal to, we have to create a function within bracket function. Here I am passing a argument, right? So this argument, you can get the argument by using this bracket. Okay, so inside we can delete the array item. So to delete, we have to use a function called scope dot fruits dot. Okay, so splice function, how to use? We have to use starting index. You want to delete starting index is this particular index. How from starting index, how many item to be deleted? Only one item I want to delete, so one. So this will remove the item from the array. So when you remove also, the view will be automatically updated. Okay, the view will be automatically updated. Now you can see the output here. When I click here, I'm adding some apple product, some products I'm adding. Now you'll get remove button. Next I'm going to add mango. So when I click mango, it is added with the remove button. Remove button is there. And when you can keep on add some items, orange. Okay, now I want to delete some items. So for example, when I click this particular button, it will be removed. When I click this button, it will be removed. When I click this button, it will be removed. When I click this button, it will be removed. So it is actually, again it is empty. So now we can keep on put some more data. So when I click again, it is added, and when I click here, it is removed. Okay, so whenever you click, it will be keep on added, and when you click this remove button, we can that array item is removed, so that the view also getting updated. Okay, so this is how we can apply this array concept, ng repeat for displaying the data in a table format, and you can dynamically add item using push function, and you can remove item using splice function. Okay, so here you can understand how to add by using ng click add item. When you click the button, we are calling add item function, which will push the scope dot fruit name. Scope dot fruit name is nothing but ng model, this one, first text box. Okay, so from this text box we are reading the data, and we are pushing into the array collection. Okay, the similar way we can remove the item. When I click this remove button, remove ng click remove item function will be called. Here I am passing the index, track by index, this index I am passing. So since I am passing the index, we can able read the index here, and we can remove the item. So the remove item function will be called, and here how it is getting deleted, scope dot fruits collection dot splice function, starting item to be removed, number of item to be removed, we are give. Okay, so that's all about AngularJS framework. Thank you all.